Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for A World Awakening. And for those who have not had the pleasure yet to meet my guest tonight, my friend Carmyn Subba, you will be thrilled and enthralled with her mystical, magical tour that she takes you on in terms of our ability to heal. And healing brings hope into the world. And so I, without further ado, want to bring her on and introduce her to all of you. Hello, my darling.
Hi, Andrea. How are you?
I'm doing well. I didn't get a nap in today, so I'm a little bit logy, but I'm doing well. And a cup of coffee always helps. I've got my sorry I can't. Mercury is in retrograde.
Nice.
And the nectar of the gods in it, which helps enormously. But one of the things that I so enjoyed about meeting you, and I haven't told you this yet, you're going to hear it for the first time, but I felt like immediately I was meeting somebody, number one, that I already knew, number two, that I had a sense of familiarity with, and then realizing that we were on the same wavelength. We were traveling the same frequency. We were resonating with each other with every word. We looked into each other's eyes like the whole universe was right there. And it was just having your energy in the room with me was ebullient, I guess.
My gosh.
The best word that I could use. I could feel you enter the room before I saw you.
Wow.
And people tell me that all the time. I could feel you before I saw you. I knew you were there because something changed. Something changed. And, Jeff and I just did Soul School, and we talked about, the pastors, the ministers, the preachers, the holy people among us that just pass through our lives and that we encounter that change us. The air changes, something changes when you're with somebody that's that grounded, that centered, and yet that ethereal simultaneously. And that's you.
Wow, Andrea. Thank you.
Well, why don't you tell people what you do, how you do it, and why you do it?
Oh, okay. What I do, I'm a vibrational sound therapist. I have been doing energy work for 20 years on top of that. So, what I do for clients on a one-on-one basis is, we tailor a session just for you and what you need out of it. We try to accomplish with the tools I have and I've acquired over the years. Why I do it, it's a calling. I don't think I had any choice because I started out on a different path, but I always came there was part of me that knew that this is what I was supposed to do. Yeah. The other things I did were just space holders until I got to do what I got to do. And some days I'm really I'm astounded I get paid to do this. Other days I'm really glad I get paid to do this.
Yeah.
But I also do sound baths and private sound baths, and that in itself can be transformative. And I can help more than one person at a time. So that's what I do and why I do it.
Well, Thomas Jefferson, years ago when I was in college, decades ago, I vaguely remember it. We went to Monticello. We were singing, my choir was singing with the men's choir at UVA. And while we were on our trip, we went there, and the tour guide said that every afternoon he would lay on his bed, just buck naked, just lay on his bed and take what he said was an air bath.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I get that. I really do. A cleansing, a purification when you've got all this stuff going on,
Yeah.
or founding a new country and on an ideology of freedom for all, and this a man who had slave quarters underneath the house. A little bit of counterintuitive stuff going on there, I would say.
Yeah.
But the fact is that we each have our own way of finding our own path to health and wholeness and
Mm-hmm.
well-being.
Yeah.
Or we don't, and we succumb. And you and Bill and I were talking about people who are perceived authority figures
Mm-hmm.
planting thoughts and planting doubts
Yeah.
in our mind. And if we accept that, and I made mention of the fact that I love my oncologist. She's wonderful. But the first time I met her, she told me bluntly, kindly, but bluntly, that the advanced stage of my cancer was, and I don't want to call it the cancer, not mine, I don't claim it, that it was inoperable and it was incurable. And she would buy me as much time as she could. In other words, go home and get your affairs in order. And my response to that was, those words are meaningless to me. I don't want to hear them again. They do not function in my sphere.
Yeah.
And I will beat this. And one of these days, you're going to say to me, you are cancer free. And she looked at me, quizzically, like, okay. And she's, well, now don't be upset. I said, I'm not upset. I'm not fearful. I don't feel sorry for myself. I live in the best country in the world for medical technology, the best doctors, the best equipment, the best hospitals, the best therapies. What do I have to be upset about? I'm not in a hovel in Afghanistan hiding my shame beneath a burqa with no one to take me to the non-existent clinic unless I can find a Taliban fighter who will escort me and I have no resources to get any help. Then you have a reason to despair. Then it's a death sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Not for me. And those words have no meaning for me. And I have no fear. And I completely surrender to my faith. And I surrender to the higher ups, all of them, work through me. Let me be the conduit to the self-healing. Let me live into my destiny, which is to defeat this and then show others how.
Yeah.
So when you and I sat at the healing, which was amazing. I mean, it really was.
It really was.
And all the ladies just did a phenomenal job of keeping, talk about trying to herd cats,
For real. For real. There were so many people.
I know it was an amazing, wonderful experience. But the part that I loved the most was when people would go play the bowls. Mm-hmm. And that sound would resonate through that conference room. Mm-hmm. And you could feel it vibrating in your sternum. It was just so purifying and so healing. And the energy, oh my God, the energy. I don't know about you, but I left there feeling like I was floating and feeling absolutely exhausted simultaneously.
Yeah, it was intense. That was probably the second night. That was probably the biggest healing circle I've ever been a part of. Mm-hmm. And it was profound. And like for 3 days afterwards, I really couldn't do anything.
And I don't know what happened to me, but maybe it was traveling in both directions at 40,000 feet, but my joints, all the joints in my body just hurt and really
Yeah.
throbbed and hurt. And I thought, wow, I ran through Atlanta Hartsfield Airport and I ran through Detroit Airport and, and then I danced danced cancer away and singing at the top of my lungs. And, and my friend Jennifer was giving me Reiki that knocked me flat on my ass. I mean, thank God she did it when I was already in bed because I wouldn't have been able to get there. And so I thought, okay, well, I've just been bombarded with healing energy. And, finally it has subsided. But, sometimes healing hurts.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does, because you're readjusting your chakras, you're readjusting your, your physical form is impacted by the energy that you're being bombarded with. It makes perfect sense that it might be a little uncomfortable, not just spiritually or psychologically, but physically uncomfortable. And so, I went through that, and everybody I know was just, wasteoids for days afterwards, total wasteoids.
It was such a powerful weekend, and it had that cumulative effect too, that the first night was amazing and you were dancing and it's just, you knew it was helping. And then the next night it felt like there were double the people.
Yeah.
And with that, we all get healing, which is so amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and a lot all left there like that.
Did I did your third eye?
Yes. You did.
How did you react to that? I never had a chance to talk to you about it after.
Andrea. I'm at a whole new level now. I've had attunements, I've had initiations. This, I don't even know. This was amazing. How it's affected me since, it's going to sound wild, but the natural world is starting to come alive a little bit more. So I'm noticing things in the sky, of course.
Yeah.
I'm noticing bugs are starting to hang out with me, which is so strange. I don't mind bugs at all, but bugs are coming to me for some reason. But yeah, everything has my senses have increased.
Yeah, it does enhance your 5 senses. It absolutely does. Tapping into your 6th sense brings your original 5 to a whole different level.
Yeah. There were days where there's a train that's 5 miles from my house, and I could hear. We can always hear it, but I had on earplugs, headphones, hood, and I could still hear the train. It's this is wild. So yeah, it was amazing, Andrea. It was amazing. And the things that I'm seeing now are wild.
Yeah. Well, our mutual friend, Tom Owen, told me that it basically, I didn't mean to hit him so hard. Really, I had to hold him up. He started tipping backwards, it was, it's a jolt. It is. And I do forewarn everybody. Plus you got to hold the stone.
Yeah.
That came from the crop circle.
Yeah.
Which I had never taken to an event before. That's such a sacred stone to me. But something told me to take it and to share it with everybody that was going to be at this event and let them feel the energy of it, and that's part of the connection as well with the higher ups that I our galactic family. And I felt like for me, I accomplished an important part of my personal mission. I
Oh.
didn't go to Houghton Lake just selfishly for me to be healed. Um, I also wanted to be a healer. I wanted to be able to participate in opening people up in a way that
Mm-hmm.
is very hard to do
Yeah.
when you've got 300 or 400 or 1,000 or 1,500 people at an event,
Yeah.
and you can only connect with just so many and
Mm-hmm.
for a very limited period of time.
Yeah.
And so to have the freedom and the space to do what we did and the way that we did it, and then to all go outside and to see the sky just lit up was
That
even
was
in
amazing.
broad daylight. Everybody's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, they're everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're everywhere
Yeah.
and
Everywhere. All the time.
all the time. I know. And it's so hard to, I don't try to convince anybody of anything, and
Mm-mm.
I never do a third eye opening without telling whomever I'm with, that I can't undo it.
No, you can't
So
undo
you
it.
have to be ready and, be absolutely sure that you are ready for this to happen because I can't reverse it. I can't. And I don't think that I am supposed to.
Mm-mm.
I think that it's like being touched by spirit. Once you are touched by spirit and you know that a spirit exists and spirit is real, you can't unknow that. You can't unlearn it. You can't unfeel it. It's
Exactly.
just how it is. And it becomes a part of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Absolutely right.
but I find that, and with Tom also, we have spoken about uh, drastic changes
Mm-hmm.
in perceptions, drastic changes in energies around you, and
Mm-hmm.
what you can embrace and what you can no longer tolerate.
Yeah.
And it's quite it's liberating, but it's also, in order to really, really understand and appreciate the process, you do have to spend some time within.
You
You
do.
do have to spend some time, not in isolation, but in a kind of solitary confinement in your own soul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Getting really quiet inside.
Yes. Yes. Peace, be still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I found that too. And oftentimes, like I'm no stranger to this and how time moves and like time really isn't real.
Hmm.
And this third eye opening kind of just like threw that right back in my face
Hmm.
that, things are happening everywhere all at once.
Yes, because
And
we live
it's,
in a
yeah,
multi-dimensional universe disguised as a
yeah,
three-dimensional environment that is oppressive.
yeah,
And, the world is hard
it
and
really
it's
is.
filled with pain and sorrow. And it's also filled with light and love and joy. And it's everything all wrapped up into one thing.
Hmm.
But as I told Tom, before you even arrived, the two of you even arrived, I said, be prepared because there's something about that place where you step into the fifth dimension while you were there. I know that building like the back of
Hmm.
my hand, and every time I go, I get lost. Lenny has to come find me and bring me to wherever I'm supposed to be next because I've taken the stairs or the elevator to the wrong floor, or I took a hallway that I wasn't supposed to and I was suddenly outside. And, and I'm totally disoriented when I am in that building
Yeah.
because I'm not in 3D
Hmm.
for the entire time that I am there. And I don't hang out in 3D that much anyway, because
Right.
yeah, but and because I'm able to, go into fourth dimension and interact with spirit, and I'm able to go into fifth dimension and interact with my galactic family, because I'm not relegated to staying in 3D. When I come back to it, then I can be defiant of it. Then I can say, no more of this bullshit. I have to do something to counteract, to be the antidote to the, toxic waste dump that's on fire. The world is on fire. And you and Tom and Deb and countless other people that I know and love, I believe we are all here. Jeff Turner, that we are all here right now, working together in tandem as a collective to help heal the world of its woes.
Yes.
And we each do it in a different way, but with the same intention, only the best of intentions, always light and love, always leading with love.
Yes.
And I think the point is that there isn't just one path.
No.
There's a multitude of paths to healing and spiritual ascension.
Yes. And how we weave it together is art.
It is. It's a tapestry. And each of us pulls along our own little golden thread, and weaves it into the grand tapestry of life.
Yeah. I like that.
I refuse to succumb to words, thoughts that do not make sense to me.
Yeah.
I can't feel this alive and be dying. It's just not possible. So, but it took me being told that I was going to die from this to feel this alive. If that makes any sense, to be defiant in the face of it.
Yes.
And to say, okay, if I'm supposed to have this so that I can heal through it, and then on the other side, share that process and bring hope to others, then yeah, I'll put up with this. Yeah, go ahead. I'll put up with this, but I don't accept it. And I refuse to leave this planet. I'm not done yet.
No, you're not. You're not even close to done.
No, I'm not. And, there are sometimes I lay my head down, I cuddle up with my little dog, and she's sound asleep. She's such a wasteoid. Somebody get you high. Like, what happened to you? Oh, she's so cute. She's 6.5 years old. From the day that I rescued her, I promised to take care of her for her whole life. Chihuahuas live an average of 20 years.
Really?
Yeah. And so I can't break that promise.
Nope, you can't.
No, it's like in the Hindu religion. If you help someone, if you lift them up, then you're responsible for them. That is, and I believe that is that we are all each our brother's keepers, our sister's keepers.
Yeah.
That if you want to live, as Emerson said, showing the way to a child is the greatest thing that you can accomplish in your life. It is a true success when you lift up a child, when you teach a child and lead a child and guide a child. Teach a child how to be in this complicated, difficult world. Then you can say you are truly successful in life. I'm a very long paraphrase for what was a much more concise quotation, which is escaping me at the moment. I used to blame COVID. Now I blame, well, whatever. But
you didn't have your nap today.
I didn't have my nap today, and I need another cup of coffee, and there's hardly anything left. It's down holding in the bottom.
Oh no.
Mm, that's okay. I would like to get some sleep tonight, and a second
Mm-hmm.
cup of coffee would preclude that. So we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
I think that what you do and how you do it, and your ability to make music a part of the raising of the vibration, you know, the frequency that you tune
Mm-hmm.
into, that you bring your clients along with you, that brings them comfort and soothes them and lets them relax completely in a
Yeah.
world where it's really hard to do that. You know, the
It really
anxiety
is.
level is through the roof.
Yeah.
You
It
know,
really is.
fear is, I think that love is the most compelling, most intense human emotion, but
Mm.
it holds hands with fear.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
does. I
It
mean,
does.
they kind of fall into the same category. It's
Mm-hmm.
love is good and fear is evil. You know, it is, and it functions in our lives because fear is often provoked
Mm-hmm.
by acts of evil.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're seeing that unfolding day to day in our own country, where
Yeah.
people are terrified to go to work,
Yeah.
terrified to go to school, terrified to go grocery shopping, you
Yeah.
know, because of the color of their skin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, that's how
Yeah.
they're being targeted and profiled.
Mm-hmm.
You know, arrest first, ask questions later.
Yeah.
And we've not lived that in our lifetimes. We've not
No,
seen
we
that
haven't.
in our lifetimes. The closest that we have was the Japanese internment camps
Mm-hmm.
in World War II.
Yeah.
Again, based on fear
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, these
Yeah.
people are a danger, danger, danger.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't know how to overcome it, but I do know that what you do, and I do know that what I do, and what I do with Jeff, and what I do with Deb, and what I do with Lenny, and what I do,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I hope makes a modicum of difference. And I know that
Yeah.
you hold that hope in your heart too.
Yeah. It's not just about holding the vibration, it's about like raising the vibration.
Right.
And we can only do that collectively.
But it's also, don't you think, a transformation of
Mm-hmm.
vibration, because the vibration on this planet right now is vibrating off the charts.
Yeah,
So
it's
it generally, for as long as they've measured the vibration
mm-hmm.
of the earth, it's always been somewhere between 2.7 gigahertz and 7.9.
Mm-hmm.
Been the for as long, and now
Yeah.
it's in the hundreds. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's like everything's, you know, it
Yeah.
really is. Um, but it's not because the planet is vibrating at a high level of love. We're
Mm-hmm.
vibrating at a very high level of fear. And
Yeah.
so the transmutation that needs to occur, where we relinquish the fear and embody the love.
Yes.
And, you know, I have received many messages, um, many messages in the last 6 months or so. A lot of downloads, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
intergalactic communiques. And one of them that I think was one of the most important of all was that we will fail at our mission if we do not embody the love and shine the light on what is wrong and make it right.
Mm-hmm.
And that requires compassion.
Mm-hmm.
It requires empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't want to feel empathy
They
because it
don't.
hurts.
Mm-hmm.
It hurts.
It does hurt.
When you put yourself, even for a moment, in the shoes of another one who is suffering immeasurably more than any kind of suffering you have ever known, and you put yourself in their place for even a moment, it's like being struck by lightning.
Yeah.
And it hurts.
It does
It
hurt.
hurts your soul. It hurts physically. You'll get a headache. I mean, there's a visceral response
Yes.
to empathy in its purest form.
Yeah.
And so it's something that a lot of people avoid. And then those among us that are extremely, what they call empaths, people that are extremely sensitive to that kind of energy,
Mhm.
myself included, we suffer not just for them, but with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so transmutation
Yes.
needs to occur.
Yes.
Not only a transformation, but a transmutation,
Mm-hmm.
where these two entities that are basically holding hands
Mm-hmm.
have to flip the switch
Yes.
so that love, not fear, is in control. Because fear is, there is legitimate fear.
Mm-hmm.
Like, am I in Gaza and I'm going to go line up and try to get some food and I'm going to be shot while I'm standing in line?
Mm-hmm.
That's a legitimate fear
For
because
real.
it's happening every fucking day.
Yeah.
Children
Yeah.
being
Children.
blown away while they're standing there with a bucket,
Mm-hmm.
waiting to get some soup.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's the world that we're living in.
Yeah.
People being abducted off the streets and thrown into unmarked van with masked
Mm-hmm.
marauders who refuse to tell you who they are or why you're being arrested.
It's
That's
kidnapped.
happening on the streets of America right now.
Yeah.
That's the world that we're living
Yeah.
in, and it's cruel. It's cruel. It's beyond unkind. When the cruelty is the point,
Mm-hmm.
when the division is the point, when you don't have any rights anymore,
Yeah.
when you go from being, an objective viewer
Mm-hmm.
of what's happening to the subject of the abuse.
Yeah.
When that happens and you understand what other people are going through, even if it's just that moment that you put yourself in their shoes,
Mm-hmm.
and you realize they're not going home to their family that night, and they might not be in the country in a couple of days. No due process involved.
Mm-hmm.
It's scary.
Yeah.
It's legitimate fear.
Yeah.
So
And it's overwhelming at times.
it is. So what's the antidote? How do we counteract this? The messages that I have gotten are, it's got to be with love.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be with love. It's got to be putting up the biggest umbrella that you can find and inviting everyone in, including people who once supported this
Mm-hmm.
and now are looking at it going, that's not what I meant.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
the hardest thing for a human being to do is to admit that they've made a mistake. It is very, very difficult because it conjugates as failure.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody wants to believe that they are supporting a failed policy, proposition, or even person they had imbued their confidence in.
Mm-hmm.
And so talk about a big fish to fry. This is a big one.
Yeah.
So how do you keep yourself grounded, that you go do what you do every day, even no matter how you're feeling,
Mm-hmm.
no matter where you are on, we all have bad days. We all,
Right.
do you feel that when you go do what you do, that it is as healing to you, as uplifting for you as it is for your clients?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel very blessed that, you know, I do modalities that touch me as well. So when I'm holding space for somebody else, I'm in service, and nothing brings me joy like being in service.
Mm,
But yes, I do like have to work to ground myself and be intentional with just about everything I do, taking care of myself and making sure I get my naps. But there's a lot of time that I spend in isolation just to recalibrate from being in service to other people.
mm-hmm.
But I also get the benefits of being in service.
Do you feel that it drains your energy and rejuvenates your energy simultaneously?
Um, yeah, that's an interesting way to put it. I don't feel like I'm drained by what I do, but because I am empathic and my clients are suffering, of course, I'm going to be feeling for them and putting myself in their place
Yeah.
and understanding, what's unfolding for them. So yes, it does drain me from that aspect, but the energy never drains me
Mm-hmm.
because it's the universal energy.
Yeah.
All I am is the channel for it.
Yeah. We are the conduits. We are.
Mm-hmm.
And, some of us have the luxury of thinking about that.
Yeah.
We're not necessarily worried about where our next meal is coming,
Mm-hmm.
or are we going to have shelter for the night.
Yeah.
We don't have to live like that.
Yeah.
And countless millions do. They
Yeah.
don't have the luxury of considering what their personal philosophy is. They're too
Yeah.
busy trying to stay alive.
For real.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting to me, Carmyn, that when we connect the way that we did, when the collective comes together the way that we did in Houghton Lake,
Mm-hmm.
how it makes everything brighter.
Mm-hmm.
It brings clarity
Mm-hmm.
in a way that nothing else can,
Mm-hmm.
even being in deep meditation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that
Community is so important.
it really is. It really is, for you to feel when you are with like-minded individuals,
Mm-hmm.
then it doesn't mean you agree on absolutely everything. And it
Right.
doesn't mean that you practice the same faith. And it doesn't mean any of that.
Mm-mm.
It's about an energy and a vibration that you share, that
Mm-hmm.
wavelength that we
Mm-hmm.
ride together,
Mm-hmm.
and I tell people all the time, spiritual ascension is not about climbing a ladder. It is horizontal,
Mm-hmm.
and we're each at a different place on our path, but it's not one person being above or beneath another in that process. That
Mm-hmm.
human evolution doesn't work that way.
No,
It is individual. And with each client that you have, I would venture to guess that each one of them leaves being in your presence awash with emotion, awash with a sense of wellness, but it's different for every single one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. We all process things differently. We all have different lenses we view things from, but we're all people. We're all human. And, even with that, even like with all the fear in the world, there's just as much love.
Yes.
And
I believe that love conquers fear.
it certainly does.
It does.
It certainly does.
If it didn't, none of us would be here anymore.
Right?
we would have just killed each other off to,
Mm-hmm.
human beings, the destructive tendencies of human beings are off the charts.
Yeah.
And if love was not able to defeat fear and hatred, which, hatred is born of fear.
Yes.
Not the opposite of love.
Mm-mm.
Fear is the opposite of love.
Yeah.
And it's just something that we have to, a mindset that we have to work to maintain every day, because it would be so easy to succumb to the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are that beacon of light, even if it's just a pin light, against the darkness of the darkest night, that light shows.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't without the darkness.
Right.
As
and
the backdrop, as the scrim.
Yeah. And it just takes one light. It just takes one light to light others up.
Yeah.
You do it. You do it all the time.
I try.
You do.
I do. I try. I try to live in service to others all the time. And I try to always lead with love, lead with kindness. The easiest thing in the world to do is to be kind.
It really is.
It is. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. I never, I had an interesting experience a couple of weeks ago. And I don't remember what happened prior to it. I think I just had a doctor's appointment. Yeah, it was Christine and I stopped at Walmart on the way home from the hospital. And I don't know what happened. I mean, this does happen to me a lot, but not like that day. Everybody I made eye contact with in Wally World, row after row after row, we walked the whole store because we needed pet food and we needed this and we needed that. And of course, it's spread out all over the place. And so I finally had to walk up to my sister and say, don't let me make eye contact with anybody. Don't let me make eye contact with anybody, because she's like, where were you? I said, I was talking to a woman in aisle 8 and then I was talking to a man in aisle 6 who both came up to me and started expelling everything that they were holding on to that troubled them or that touched them or that they needed to get out. And Jeff and I in Soul School were talking about that calling, and you were referring to that calling.
Yeah.
And for some reason that day, I was just radiating something that was magnetizing to certain people, and I could just be walking past someone and make eye contact with them, and in that second they stopped and engaged me in conversation and poured their hearts out to me 5-10 minutes at a time. And that happened 5 times in one that was supposed to be a brief stop. And Christine's like, well, let me give you my baseball cap and you can just put it over your eyes. I'm like, my head's too big, it won't fit on my head. And I don't know what it is, but it is something.
It's the light
that happened.
It's the light you radiate. It's the light. Like, it happens to me all the time too. It's
strangers, perfect strangers that you've never met before, you've never seen before. And they tell you their most intimate secrets and their family story and their pain and their suffering and what makes them cry. And where does that come from? That outpouring of human emotion that is so pent up, so internalized within them that it explodes out of them when they see someone that they know they can talk to. They know that they can trust with something that they might never have discussed with anyone else ever before. And it's in those moments where I'm extending myself, where I am pausing, giving them my full undivided
Mhm.
attention, touching them while
Mhm.
we talk, sharing that energy, even if it's just a hand on the shoulder.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, and then inevitably they hug me before they walk on to go get their soup. You know,
Mhm.
and I don't, but it's so lovely. It's
Yeah,
so
it really
lovely.
is.
I had a little boy once at Public Supermarket. We're standing near, I was walking up to the deli and he was there with his mother. And he just turned and he looked at me and he ran to me. He just pulled away from her and ran and wrapped his arms around my legs. And that poor woman was so mortified. She's like, oh my God, he's never done anything like this in his life. I said, no, it's okay. It happens all the time. And she's like, what? I said, no, it really does. And I got down on the ground with him and I looked it in his eyes and I said, oh my God, you're the most beautiful little boy I've ever seen. What is your name? And he said, I'm Gabriel. I was named after an archangel.
Ooh.
Fuck. You know, that's my archangel. That's the one that
Yeah.
watches over me. So says a number of mystics.
Mhm.
And there he was.
Oh,
You know, I mean, that was a spiritual experience at the deli of a public supermarket.
yeah, they can happen anywhere, can't they?
It was miraculous.
Yeah.
It was. Watch for the miracles.
Yes.
Watch for the miracles.
Yes.
You know, my sister had gone shopping a few weeks ago. I told the story. You probably heard it because you watch the show all the time.
Mhm.
But an elderly woman walked up to her and handed her a big, beautiful bouquet of flowers.
Yeah.
And just, you know, just out of nowhere, she just showed up and Christine was so taken by it. She was so shocked. She's like, she didn't know this woman. But she walked up to her at the side of the car. Chris rolled down her window and the woman handed her this massive, beautiful bouquet of flowers. And after they engaged for a few moments, and Chris like, are you sure?
Mhm.
Why? You know, they had this lovely little back and forth and she thanked her profusely. And she leaned over and she put the flowers on the passenger seat. And when she turned back around, that woman was gone.
I love
She
that
got
story.
out of the car. She looked all over a few seconds, looked all over the parking lot, and that woman was gone. And she came home and she's like, and oh my God, I'm like, where? You bought flowers? She's like, no, they were given to me, and told me the story. And it was so uplifting. It was so beautiful. It was so sacred. It was so holy. It was so precious. And having those moments, and I know you do too, and I know Tom does too.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
Yeah, that's really part of
the
it.
magic, the supernatural aspect of our natural world.
Yeah. Yeah, when you look for it, it's everywhere too.
Yeah. Everywhere.
Mhm.
Expect a miracle. They're
Yeah.
right around you all the time.
All
And
the
when
time.
you live in that place and heart, when you live in that mindset, when everything is beautiful, even on the ugliest day,
Mhm.
you can still find the beauty. I know what you mean about, I mean, I love hummingbirds, and my mother always had a yard full of feeders from
Mhm.
the first scouts in Georgia usually show up in mid-March.
Yeah.
And that's when the feeders went out.
Mhm.
And this year, Christine put all the feeders out in the same place that they've always been, and not one hummingbird came. Not
Wow.
one. And I thought maybe they were coming from Mom. Maybe her attachment to them was why they would come here and nest here and have their babies and raise their babies here on this property, because we're surrounded by forest. And I was, heartbroken that not a single one had either of us seen all through the spring. And yesterday morning, no, this afternoon, there was a hummingbird feeding in my sister's planter, the flowers that she and I bought the day of our mother's 1 year anniversary of her passing.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Oh, that's so beautiful.
There it was, ruby throated,
Oh,
which was my mom's favorite. Always the green
mhm.
iridescent with the ruby throats. There it
Oh,
was.
so
The
beautiful.
only one that we've seen all spring into now summer. And it is the
Mhm.
solstice, my sister.
Oh,
My
it
star
really is.
sister.
Perfect timing.
It is. So let us go forward, you and I,
Yes.
and all of our ilk, as birds of a feather do tend to flock together.
Yes.
And I will see you again in
Yes.
September. And everybody that can get there needs to come to the UFO contact in Houghton Lake, in the hotel that's in the fifth dimension for some reason. I think maybe the ley lines. I'm not sure. Deb
Yeah,
says
I think it's definitely the ley lines have something to do with it.
something. And the water. Oh my
Oh
God.
yeah.
But we will get together again, and we will hold hands, and we will make the bowls sing, and we will sing, and we will bring our light and our love together in unison into the world and raise the vibration. And I love you,
I
Carmyn.
love you.
You're
Thank you
precious.
so much.
We will do this again. Next time we'll
Yes.
get Tom on. He's like,
Yes.
oh, I got to go to bed. I got to get up early. I'm like, snap out of it. Fucking coffee, man. What is wrong with you? Oh God, I love him. Well, we're about out of time tonight, but I do feel like tonight we lived up to the title of the show, A World Awakening, because
Yes.
we are a world awakening to the truth.
Mhm.
And the truth is that love will liberate you. Love will set you free.
Yes.
And love and compassion and kindness and empathy is the light. And Carmyn Subba, you are the light.
Thank you, Andrea. You are the light as well.
Thank you.
Mm.
Okay, shine on, sister. You
Shine
glow,
on.
girl.
Bye. Thank you.
Everybody, here's your message, your closing message. Be the change you wish to see in the world. Be that beacon of hope on a hill. Be the light you seek. I love you. We love you. Have a wonderful night. God bless.